A high-ranking police official has been arrested in connection with the awarding of a multi-million rand contract. They arrested in connection to the supply of emergency warning equipment for the South African Police Service. That's back in 2017.
Yeah, now according to this statement from police, total exposure of the police fiscus was 191 million rand, but only 65 million rand was paid to the service provider. Let's in fact speak to the NPA's the spokesperson for the NPA's investigating directorate. Pardon me, that's Sindisiwe Twala, who joins us now on the line. Sindisiwe, good morning. Thanks for your time this morning on the AM report. What can you tell us about this arrest?
What I can definitely tell you is that this last addition to the blue light case, as it's affectionately been known, has not been easy to get to. What happened is that the investigation commenced when we took up office. We looked into who did what, and about 12 people were implicated initially. And these are high-ranking officials: the former National Police Commissioner Khomoso Phahlane, the former Gauteng Police Commissioner Deliwe Dilanga, the Gauteng Deputy Police Commissioner Major General Brigadier Nomburuza, and a variety of others. So this addition is another top official who worked at the National Office. She's still to be processed at one of the police stations in Johannesburg, and then later today we're expecting that she'll head to the Palm Ridge Magistrate Court, where she will then formally appear before the court, and then we can name her. She stands accused of corruption, fraud, theft, and money laundering. So another thing that I'd like to clarify, so 191 million was the exposure to the police fiscus, hence it's been highly stated as 191 million. However, we then found out that 65 million rand of that amount was then paid to the service provider, while the 22 million that would have brought it to around 86 million was not. It was stopped when the people and the accused in the matter realized that the investigations were at an advanced stage.
So just in terms of how this arrest came about, it's obviously due to what you've just outlined, that discrepancy between the 191 million versus what was actually paid to the service provider. But this is a case that goes back to this tender, shall we call it, goes back to 2017 for the South African Police Service. Now, 3 years later, are you saying investigations have been underway all that time?
The investigations intensified when the IG took up office in 2019, but initially there was a team of other law enforcement agents who were actually looking into it and trying to actually formulate or find evidence in that regard. But when the IG came, because we were working on a prosecution-led investigation, we're able to expedite and get those who have been implicated to actually be able to stand trial, to either clear the names or either for the law to take its course and for them to be prosecuted for what they did. But what we must also mention is that the high-ranking police officer that we're talking about, we have a lot of evidence to prove that the high-ranking official aided and abated in this crime. This was found through the cell phone communication and various other communication that this particular person partook in at the time when the person was at the helm.
Yeah. So you talk about prosecution-led arrests. Are you talking about this phenomenon that, you know, we see people arrested all the time, but whether they actually go on trial, whether they're convicted and actually go to jail, that's a whole different story?
So what we are doing as the investigating directorate is a slightly different model. So prosecutors work hand in hand with the investigating officers. So they essentially give the brief, speak to the police, and then they work hand in hand in order to facilitate and make sure that we have strong indictments before court. Because what normally happens in the normal course of the events is that the police or the Hawks will investigate and then hand over the file to the NPA to then process and see if a strong case can come of it. So in this scenario, the IG works on a slightly completely different model where we are working with law enforcement, but it's more on as and when the case is begun, they work hand in hand in order to make sure that any things that are missing can then be found so that we can expedite these charges or expedite these cases, because what we're seeing is people are arrested and then later on charges are provisionally withdrawn for whatever reason. But we're making sure that when we hand out charges or when we charge people, we know that this is going to hold before court of law.
Sindisiwe Twala, thanks very much for your time this morning on the AM report. She is the spokesperson for the NPA's investigating directorate, and it is your breaking news story this morning. A high-ranking police official arrested in connection with the awarding of a multi-million rand contract. We're told that official is now being processed at the police station and will then appear in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court. Of course, as it unfolds, we will continue to track the story for you.